17, all right. So there were 4 statements that we received. So in no particular order, I've got Chad Wilson, Trinity Solar. I don't know if we need to put these up or if we've got them, but essentially this one shows that there is a 0 balance. However, there's a $1,229 and change pending payment. I presume that's for John preparing the resolution because we've finished this one, I believe, right?
Which one is that?
This is the Chad Wilson Trinity Solar.
Yeah, hopefully they have that one pending because that's an account receivable from me. I'm always the last guy, but I do the resolution.
So, but there's no money in the account, so
But
I don't.
Bruce,
Go ahead.
excuse me, and I'm sorry to interrupt because it's not my place, but the chart that I'm looking at shows a balance of $891.25.
Are you looking at the spreadsheet?
I'm looking at the chart that we received, I guess Susanna sent this.
Yeah, that's from the
this guy.
CFO.
But look at the date on that.
April 2021.
Yes, well, as of May 31, there's a 0 balance.
Oh, I don't have one with May. Okay. Well, I guess
In the same email with the chart, there were 4 statements that came. And that's what I'm referring to. We can do is if I can do a screen share if we need to, you'd have to enable me. Frank, you want to enable me for screen share or?
Actually, Paul, can you
Yeah, hang on,
enable?
let me see here.
Right now, Bruce, just so you know, Paul is the co-host because Frank's in his car.
Okay.
Well, Susanna should be able to also.
So if
I
I,
might be able to.
so if I click, I don't, what am I
Frank,
clicking?
Frank, when you went out of the meeting and came back in, Susanna lost her co-hosting.
All right, well, I just made Bruce co-host, so he should be able to share now.
Hmm. Okay. So this is the statement I was just talking about, which shows a 0 balance, which shows basically an account receivable for John. So there's basically no money to pay John, so I don't know how we can authorize payment to John, but
Oh, okay, Bruce, my understanding is you guys aren't, well, maybe you're also authorizing payment. I thought that the primary thing here with management of escrows
that's
was
what I
to,
could do.
was to try to have at least someone in the township stay on top of this and see what those balances are, so that if work should stop, you guys should tell whoever's doing to stop work on it. Even though technically, all this stuff under the municipal land use law is the responsibility of the CFO.
So in terms of action item for the township or the CFO, if they haven't done so, they need to send a bill for this, right?
Right, because the CFO has to send a letter requesting a deposit into the escrow account. Unless they do that, actually, it's debatable whether you could stop work. It's only if the CO said, if the CFO says, you got to replenish the escrow account in X amount of dollars, and they have to give a reasonable time. I say 7 days is a reasonable time, and then they don't do it, then the CFO can put a stop work notice on everybody. Now, this one, I mean, the cat's out of the bag. The resolution's already been adopted. You know, had we known this then, maybe you wouldn't have adopted that resolution. So this is going to be a pain in the neck, but hopefully eventually they'll collect it. The person who does the best collecting again is Mike Finelli, because after I'm done with the resolution, he actually has some inspections and stuff like that. And so he gets a little leverage at the very, very end, and then he helps collect these things. Messed up, but that's how it's done, just telling you.
So based on what you just said, this isn't going to be the total outstanding amount, right? There's still going to be some more billables probably from Mike's side.
From Mike's stuff. And hopefully that won't always be saying pending payment. Hopefully someone soon it will say paid.
Okay, next one. This one is a better story. It looks like there's money in the account to pay the pendings. I don't know what you guys have. Well, obviously there's going to be a lot more done on this. So,
Correct.
but if it's up to us to authorize payment, then these should be paid as far as I can. Enter Solar, which is on the docket for tonight. This one, they're in the arrears.
Yeah, this is a problem. And I'm really, really, really happy that you guys are talking about this because this resolution is scheduled to be adopted tonight.
Perfect timing, as they say.
Yep. So Bruce,
So
in a perfect world, well, first of all, Susanna, do we know if the CFO has sent out a request for more money on Enter Solar?
I don't know.
Let's assume for argument's sake that the CFO had sent out a request and said, look, I want you to deposit X amount of money in the escrow account and you got to do it by Y date, reasonable time, 7 days. If the applicant didn't, then no problem stopping work. Now, if the CFO did not send out that letter, theoretically, we might not have the right to stop work. So I'm going to suggest for tonight, we've done this a couple of times in the past, that the board adopt the Enter Solar resolution, but that the board directs Susanna not to sign it and not to send out notice to the newspaper that it's been adopted until and unless the escrow is brought up to date. But then Susanna immediately tomorrow's got to get a hold of the CFO and they got to get a letter out requesting the money. Because Bruce, if the CFO hasn't sent that letter, then it's totally not the applicant's fault. The applicant might very well not even know that they have a negative balance.
it's got a couple listing pending payments here. Are we aware of additional charges that you guys are going to have?
Well, I know for a fact that my bills that go out of my office, I reviewed and signed all my bills this morning, which means they're probably going to get put out in the mail tomorrow, which means Greenwich is not going to get them until Monday or Tuesday. And that's for my time in May. So I'm looking at this resolution right here, and it's got a last revision date of June 1. That means most of the time that went into this resolution was in May. So that means there's going to be a bill from me for doing this resolution.
Is there a set amount that we want the CFO to request, or is that dependent on her to make that call?
Well, that's off. That should be offline. That shouldn't be done. The CFO will reach out to me and Mike and Kendra and
Okay.
ask us to tell her how much our billing is going to be for the month of May. And then we'll all email her that. And then she'll ask us, how much time do we project putting in after that? In my case, it's going to be 0. In Finelli's case, he's going to have something. I don't know if Kendra's going to have something or not. Then the CFO adds all that stuff up, and that's where she figures out how much to ask for.
Okay, would you guys like me to CC you on my email to her, or?
Yeah, why don't you
Yeah,
CC her?
That'd be helpful.
CC us, because then she could just respond, to everybody and ask us those questions that she's got to ask.
Okay, sounds good.
Mr. Chairman, may I interject?
Sure.
Just to digress a minute, it went over so fast that Jonathan said he no longer reads our minutes because where did that come in as a resolution? Or Jonathan, can you explain that to me?
Yeah.
He says he doesn't, well, he said he doesn't look at them, so I guess that's not reading them, but
Correct. I don't look or read them because Ray told me that there was a complaint because, see, if I do resolutions and applications and all that, it gets charged out of escrow. Anything that's non-escrow comes out of the board budget. So a former member of the township committee apparently complained to Ray. So Ray told me, don't review the minutes anymore. So I haven't been reviewing them for almost a year.
so to be quite frank, it really is our job as board members to read the minutes and suggest corrections to them. So when you get them, you should do that and forward those corrections to Susan so that we can, talk about the final minutes when we get to the meeting.
Let me put it this way.
But-
I represent the board. I don't represent the chairman. I represent the board. But I
Right.
take direction from the chairman. And if people can, make a motion to overrule a chairman by majority vote all the time, but I don't, look, whatever you guys want me to do, I'll do. I'm a rule follower.
Well, my question, then, Mr. Chairman, my question is, how is Jonathan going to be able to respond correctly to anything we have concerning the minutes if he doesn't have a chance, if he doesn't read them and know what's going on?
I'm not going to say anything because I
That's
said,
why I asked the chairman.
that's why I suggested that Susanna listen to the recording and take another shot at it. And then you guys figure out if you think it's accurate or not.
And again, I'll say it's at the board's discretion, but basically the minutes are, as Frank said, a record of what happened during the meeting. You were there in the meeting, so all of you, that is. And so if you read the minutes and it doesn't represent what you believe happened in the meeting, then you have the right to suggest changes to it. And I'd say the responsibility.
So in that case, then we cannot ask Jonathan any legal, if you want to call it legal questions concerning the minutes.
Sure we can.
Because he hasn't reviewed them and doesn't know what's going on with the minutes, per se. Although he might have been at the meeting.
But John, just to confirm, the minutes are not a legal document.
Oh, yes, they are. The minutes are
legal document.
absolutely a legal document. The municipal land use law says that they're admissible in court. So that means if they're not accurate, anyone can use them against the board. The board can also use them, but they're not a transcript. There's a difference. If one of your decisions gets appealed, it's the transcript. It's not the minutes. If there's a difference, if there's a conflict between minutes and a transcript, the transcript prevails. But the only time you guys get transcripts, or if you have some big application and someone wants a transcript, or they want a transcript made so board members can read it to make themselves eligible to vote or listen to a recording, because the minutes don't do that. But the minutes absolutely have legal effect. NJSA 40:50-9(c). The minutes of every regular or special meeting shall be kept and shall include the names of persons appearing and addressing the municipal agency, of the persons appearing by attorney, the action taken by the municipal agency, the findings of the agency, if any, and the reasons therefore for action. The minutes shall thereafter be made available for public inspection during normal business hours. Any interested party shall have the right to compel production of the minutes for use as evidence in any legal proceeding concerning the subject matter of such minutes. So if you don't have a transcript, whatever the minutes say, going to control.
Keep in mind that when we vote to approve the minutes each month, when you vote to approve them, you're basically saying, you've looked at them and you agree with what they said.
Right. The minutes are supposed to accurately reflect what happened.
So regardless,
John, quick question though, John, does the recording overrule the minutes? Like, does one take precedence over the other?
If someone orders a transcript be made from the recording, the transcript would take precedence over the minutes. To have a transcript made, you got to pay, and that's hundreds of dollars. To have the minutes correct in the first place is the best procedure.
Okay.
Again, that's why I suggested that Susanna listen to the recording and then take another shot at the minutes. And then if you guys want, if you don't remember, see, I have to take notes for the resolutions. Susanna takes notes for the minutes. Mike Finelli takes notes for engineering things. You guys don't take notes. That's all right. But if you don't remember, or if there's a difference in memory, I believe that all the recordings are posted online. Just listen to it.
Well, here's my question for you is, can we reference the recording in the minutes as
No,
a backup?
no. That the statute says that what the minutes are supposed to contain. It doesn't,
Okay.
they don't incorporate by reference.
Okay, well, because the minutes have always been just a Reader's Digest version of,
That's what they're supposed to be.
yeah.
Okay? They're supposed to
So-
be a Reader's Digest version.
But an accurate Reader's Digest version.
Correct. Now,
Not the
but listen, some boards, some secretaries make them too detailed. I've had boards tell them the minutes are not hours, right? The minutes are minutes. A transcript is hours. A transcript is all the details. The minutes are not supposed to have all the details, but the minute, whatever the minutes say, it's supposed to accurately represent what happened, whatever level of detail you guys want. I'm going to read this again, the bare minimum requirements for minutes. The names of persons appearing and addressing the board. Anyone appearing by an attorney. The action taken by the board, the findings, if any, and the reasons. So you had Jeff Long describing, giving the board a heads up on what changes they're going to be making when they come in on their application.
Mhm.
The minute should say that Jeff Long testified, and they can summarize what he said. Or they don't have to summarize what he said. But if they summarize what he said, it's supposed to accurately summarize what he said. The minute simply could say, Jeff Long gave the board a heads up or a brief summary of the changes that they were going to make when they come in for amended preliminary and final site plan approval. That'd be fine. But if they say what the changes are going to be, then they should be accurate. You guys got to decide the level of detail, not me. You guys got to tell Susanna what level of detail you want.
So, Mr. Chairman, my question stands as to why Jonathan cannot look at or check our minutes ahead of time. So if a question came up, as it did with one of our members, he would be able to accurately address that before we approve the minutes.
The reason was, Joe, was that John was spending a fair amount of time rewriting, correcting the minutes, for which he was charging the budget for the board, the land use board, and members of the township committee raised objections about those charges. And so the previous chairman decided to have John stop doing that. Now, maybe it's a question for our township committee members as to whether, because we do not have an extensive budget as visioned by the fact that, we're already having issues with professionals for the reexamination plan.
Understand.
But I would put the question back to the township committee representatives to bring that up in township committee. But and again, this is my personal opinion, is that as board members, you're receiving the minutes every month, you're reading them, you're voting to approve them, so that what you vote to approve, okay, should be, you should be comfortable with it. You should feel that it's accurate, or you shouldn't be approving them or giving suggestions to change it.
I appreciate that. Understand.
So
Okay.
no, I read them. They're not detailed.
Likewise.
I made a couple changes to them that I submitted to Susanna, and I was satisfied with what they were for this month.
Kathy Cullen was not satisfied.
Right, and there's also like opinions in there, and it doesn't give the credit as to who the opinion is coming from.
It's a good point, yeah.
And that's a valid comment, Kathy. I mean, at least but I think basically you need to write up your changes and submit them to Susanna.
I did submit the changes, but there were some questions on there as well. So I can't answer the questions, but she does have the changes.
I mean, do you guys prefer I make them simple, like John mentioned? Because it's honestly less work for me to do that. I mean, I don't want it to seem like it's my opinion or my, you know.
All right, well,
I personally think that the minutes have been fine all along. I think we were just a little shocked to hear that John hasn't been reading them. I think we were all kind of under the assumption that he had been, but I think they've been fine as they've been being written recently. It was just, Kathy's question about the county. I didn't quite read it that way, but that was just the way I read it. So, but I thought the minutes have been fine the way they've been.
so can I suggest that we move on and maybe next month, spend a little extra time on the minutes and of course this version, since this is going to come up again next month. And, and then if we decide next month that we need to make a change in the situation, have John. In the meantime, hopefully we'll have some feedback from the township committee about that. And, we can discuss it again next month.
Sure.
Yep, okay.
All right.
How did we get back on the minutes anyway? We were talking about the escrow.
Yeah,
Because we were talking about money here.
Okay, right, that's
and
out.
I asked to digress for a minute.
Okay,
And
got
a
it.
minute turned out to be.
we digress, but that's okay. So let's see. I think so. Solar. I think we kind of finished the discussion. The discussion on that one. We'll get back to that when we do the resolution. The Ross Dress for Less. Now they're still coming before us, right?
Mike, Mike Finelli? What's happening with this one? Because
Mike, are you there?
Mike's muted.
because I'm looking at this and this seems to show that they've paid out money, not that anything's pending, that they've paid us all, Mike. And I don't know how you pay and go below zero in an escrow account.
Mike, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sorry about that. I guess you didn't hear what I said before. Yeah, this is a little surprising, alarming.
What the hell?
And John's right. It does look like we've been paid, and that would have. I don't know how that happened. Like John said, I don't know how that happened.
Well, you'll notice down at the bottom here, invoices pending to be paid. You do have a number of, I mean, they went in the rears, paying you guys, but there's also additional invoices that haven't been paid. And if they were, I believe this means that to cover everything, they'd still owe $7,900.
Mike, let me ask you something. The resolution was adopted, or have they been issued permits for construction?
Not to my knowledge. They contacted us.
Oh, Mike, listen, if they have not been issued the permits, you hear what I'm saying?
Well,
Tomorrow morning,
I don't know that, of course. I can certainly find out, and we'll go from there.
I would suggest you find out and go from there, and we not discuss it anymore tonight.
Fair enough.
Bruce, you understand what we're saying here?
But there's two applications, right? one was where the landlord came in, right, for the signage, and one was for the actual tenant themselves, right?
Well, they both came in for signage. They just overlapped each other. But again, this is not to
But
put
they
this all
wouldn't
on Mike.
They
but
wouldn't be
Mike-
the ones coming in for a building permit, that's my point, right? It would be the actual,
Listen, Susanna, let Mike, I think that we should let Mike investigate this tomorrow and see what he can come up with.
Fair enough. I've done this investigative type of work for years and years now, so I got the drift. I will follow up and find out. Obviously, what typically will trigger my investigation would be the fact that we're not getting paid. That's the trigger mechanism. I don't know if John's not getting paid. I don't know if Kendra's not getting paid, of course. I know when we're not.
Listen, Kendra's
No.
lucky. She wasn't involved in this. She's not getting paid because she doesn't have any billings.
Apparently, yes, she is. So, okay, I'll check into it. I got it. And we still will have, assuming the project does go forward, we'll get this rectified.
And Paul and Frank, just so you understand, there's a bunch of money. Well, if I look at that, there's at least $3,400 that's been paid out that we didn't have from the applicant, which is basically out of the town's pocket.
I see that.
So, and there's still, other bills to be paid that, okay. So, I don't think that we have anything more to do on the escrow, whatever, as dismal as this was. So let me stop this screen share here. Okay.
But that was pretty depressing.
Well, at least you have a piece of information we didn't have before, but it is
Yeah.
depressing. So the next order of business is the resolution for Enersolar, Resolution 2021-02.
2021-01.
20. Well, it says,
Yeah, Susanna, what's the right number? I had 2021-01 on it. You have on the agenda 2021-02. Are you right?
yeah, there was, I can go back and look, but there was a resolution we just had. Well, I forget what-
well, yeah, you did the Chad Solar thing or something, didn't you? Or,
Yeah, but that may have been last year. Hold on for one. Let me just take a quick look. I got it open on my screen. No, this is the first one of this year. The Chad Solar was
sure, we adopted a resolution.
Wilson Trinity. That's Chad, right? That was 2020-06. The Ingerman extension was 2020-07.
There was,
If you have an 01, tell me, because it's kind of bizarre because I don't have it.
Are you looking, Susanna?
I'm looking, yeah, but it's gonna take me a minute to look.
The only other one that's
Dan, just so you
recent
know,
that-
even if a resolution is adopted in 2021, if it memorialized a board decision from 2020, I give it a 2020 number.
And that's maybe what I'm thinking here.
You guys want to put it as 2001? And then I remember seeing something, but I don't see it now, and I don't want to take up more time.
My suggestion is to adopt this as 2021-01, because my advice is you're going to be directing Susanna not to sign it anyway. And so if it ends up, we have to put a new number on it. Scrivener's error, we'll just have her change it.
Yeah. Okay, so you received John's markup and all. Any comments or questions about this resolution?
Now, as to version 2, with the last date of June 1 on it, no further comments. The only thing that will have to be reflected at the end of the vote is I got Buckwalter there because he did vote in favor, But on the voter tally, I'll have him listed as no longer a board member.
Okay. So basically, we would need a motion to adopt this resolution as amended with the instructions for Susanna not to publish it or to sign it until the CFO has sent out a letter requesting.
Well, until the CFO sends a letter and we get the money.
We get the money. Okay, so I need a motion.
So be it. I'll send a motion. Joe Fiamma.
Joe Fiamma, second. Anybody? Mark Scuderi. Good. Do we need a roll call on
Yeah,
this?
you need a roll call. So
Okay, Suzanne?
Paul Beam,
Yes.
Joseph Chichella,
Yes.
Frank Marchetta,
Yes.
Bruce Williams,
Yes.
Kathy Cullen,
Yes.
Gary Hill,
Yes.
Mark Scuderi,
Yes.
and Joseph Fiamma.
Okay, could I ask a quick question actually of Susanna, going back half a step? Susanna, could you send me that screen share that Bruce put up on the Ross Dress for Less? Because I mean, maybe I do have it, but I don't have it with me tonight. So if you could just send it to me for me to do what I gotta do. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you get Joe's vote? Fiamma's vote or?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So motion passes.
Connection unstable.
Is there, just because I think it'll be short, are there any updates on the affordable housing?
yes, there are. Do you want me to, do you want?
Yeah, why don't you do that?
So what you guys said last time was that you wanted a short update on the other 100% affordable housing project, which is the Petrucci project. So I'm only going to say things I can say publicly, nothing attorney-client privilege, but as you guys may recall, the Petrucci site was the former Furman site. Any of you guys, you know the lot I'm talking about? Mike, can you give them a description of the lot just in case I'm not seeing everyone shaking their heads?
Okay, the Furman lot has been the name of the lot, as John indicated. It is the lot directly across the street from the old Hyundai dealership, which is now the used car dealership along Route 173. Voorhees Road is a little stub the road that runs down to Pohatcong. So it's on the same side of 173, it'd be the south side of 173 across Voorhees Road. It's a 5-acre lot, rectangular lot.
I don't remember how many of you were on the board when they actually came in with an application for preliminary site plan approval for their 100% project. And if you recall, they hit a big snag because there's two issues. The first issue is, how do they get their sewer affluent off the site and into a sewage treatment plant? And that was actually the only issue that the board professionals knew about before the site plan hearing started. Now, first I'll give you an update on where we are with that. I mean, this is like hot off the press news. The township hired special eminent domain counsel to put in motion what would have to be done to take by eminent domain the sanitary sewer easements and the sanitary sewer pipe running through those easements. Now, you know, rumors always swirl around, so I don't want to start a rumor, I want to quell a rumor. The rumor was that the township was going to have to take some of the Dowell property because Dowell, that was the sewer line that Dowell put in. That's a rumor, and it's a false rumor because it's true that Dowell put in the sewer line, but the sewer line went through easements that were obtained from these various other property owners to run the pipe to get it into where it would have to go to get to the sewer plant. So the takings are over 5 lots, not the Dowell lot. And it's just taking an easement, and most of the easements run along the perimeter of these lots. So the special eminent domain counsel, I spoke with him yesterday, assured me, and I've actually seen appraisals, which I'm not at liberty to speak about because there are going to be, those appraisals are going to be in front of the township committee to approve at their next meeting. And it's not a whole bunch of money that's going to have to be spent to take those things, because again, they're only easements running under the ground with sewer pipe in it, and it doesn't impact the developability of the lots it's going over. So that was the first issue, and that took a long time to get here. So that's the first thing that looks like it's going to get resolved, because if they reach a voluntary agreement, the township will just get those easements. If they don't reach a voluntary agreement, then the township's going to file eminent domain actions, and as soon as you file the complaint, the township actually gets the legal right to the easements, and then the only question that gets litigated is how much money is fair compensation. Now, the second issue, which the board professionals did not know about until they came in for the site plan, was obviously, right, what are the 4 essential elements of a development? Drinking water, sewer out of the site, traffic, parking, circulation, and the 4th, stormwater drainage. So they had a stormwater drainage plan, but if you guys recall, the next door neighbor, David Slack, he has an easement over the Furman property for his stormwater. And it's not along the perimeter. It's not like the sewer easements along the other 5 lots on the other side of the street. David Slack's easement cuts off a big corner of the property, which makes the development, unless that can be rerouted, impossible to do. And so Petrucci had said they were going to try to voluntarily work out a deal with Slack to reroute the easement along the perimeter, but that's never been able to be accomplished. I've been in touch occasionally with Mr. Slack's attorney, Kevin Benbrook, who tells me, yeah, we can work out some kind of deal. We can work out some kind of deal, but nothing's been worked out yet. So the eminent domain attorneys are going to look again, not to take Mr. Slack's property, but to take the stormwater sewer easement and move it on the perimeter, not of Mr. Slack's property, on the perimeter of this property, so that they can do the development. Until those 2 things are resolved, they cannot come back to the planning board for a preliminary approval, because even though it's an affordable housing project, my legal advice to the board would be you can't grant preliminary approval if they don't have a feasible method of getting rid of their sewer affluent, and if they don't have a feasible method of dealing with stormwater drainage. So that's the update on Petrucci. So if anyone has any questions, if I can answer them in public, I will. Otherwise, we would go into closed session to get attorney-client privilege advice.
Any questions?
And I have a different housing question. Would now be appropriate?
Absolutely.
Okay, a couple of months ago, there was an article that was published talking about the Ingerman development.
So that wasn't a couple of months ago. That was December of 2020. There was an article published about the Ingerman development, which said there are going to be homeless people housed in the Ingerman development. Okay, that's inaccurate. It's false. It's not going to be a homeless shelter. Attached to the settlement agreement that the township entered into with Fair Share Housing Center is a income qualification chart. There are 6 regions in the state, and I'm going to ask Kendra to help me out on this. I believe there are 6 different charts depending on what county and what region you're in. Am I correct or incorrect?
Nope, you're correct.
Okay, so the chart for income eligibility for the township's region, which is all of Warren County, and even though we're in vicinage 13 with Somerset and Hunterdon, I believe, I forget, Kendra, do you recall Warren County, what the other county is in our region?
It's in Morris, Union, and Essex.
Okay, so there's a chart and everyone has to be income eligible. So if a person has no money, they're not allowed in. Now, there's a 13% of the affordable housing people have to be very low income. My guess is that to get a very low income person who qualifies, I'll bet you that some of those very low income people in the past may have been homeless. But this is not a homeless shelter. You can't rent here unless you meet the income criterion, because Ingerman is charging rent, right? If someone can't afford to pay that rent, first of all, it's income eligible. It can't be over a certain amount or they don't qualify. But if you can't qualify to pay the minimum rent that Ingerman's going to charge, they're not going to let you in. So presumably, unless someone is gifting this person money, they got a job somewhere. And once they're in here, they're not homeless. And a homeless shelter is where people don't pay any rent. And it's like a short-term thing. That's not what this is. So I read that, and that's, in my opinion, incorrect. And Jeff Long has told me that. I thought you guys were going to ask him that question. That's one of the reasons I brought him in last month, and no one asked him. And quite frankly, I forgot to ask him myself. But that's the answer to that question.
Thank you.
What, was that your question? Because I didn't even heard your question, Kathy.
Well, that was my question. He read me right to it, right?
Ooh.
It's amazing.
I
Well, hey,
channeled
you
into her
know-
brain.
Yeah. So John, actually, you know what? In that same article, it talked about 10 households with special needs and a special coordinator. Is that true too, or no?
I don't know. That's because now
It's
you're
in the
asking me
same
for the first
article.
time. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Any other questions on affordable housing updates?
Oh, hey, yes, I do have one more,
Kathy,
John.
if you email me a question, right, then I can prepare to answer it. So if you want
Right.
that question answered, you're going to have to email me because I'm going to forget about it. And
Yeah.
I'm not reading the minutes, so I'm not going to see it in the minutes either.
There you go. I just have one other question. We had talked about the Dumont property, the board doing a walkthrough. What happened with that? Did I miss something on that?
Yeah, anyone who wanted to do a walkthrough, Jeff Long said, contact Susanna and he'll make arrangements to bring them around. No one contacted Susanna.
I sent Suzanne a note, and I think Pam did too.
Yeah, and I forwarded that to, I think it was, let me open it up. Nobody has gotten back to you? That
No,
email was
nobody.
forwarded to Mr. maybe it was-
Miss Jeff Long, Susanna, you're supposed to, if people indicated they were interested, you're supposed to contact.
John, I
Jeff
did.
Long,
I
and
did
then-
forward it.
right, and then get back to them and tell them when.
This is Andrea. I requested as well.
Email.
So Susanna has to follow up with Jeff Long and say that we have X number of board members who are interested and have.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll re-forward what I sent him for who reached out to me, and then you guys could, have him respond, and then that way everybody sees what he's responding. But I did forward the information over.
I understand, but you're gonna have to follow, in other words, you can forward it to him, but you gotta follow up. Maybe even call him, forward it to him, call him and say, Jeff, give me some dates, and then you'll get back to the board members with the dates.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions, thanks.
Okay, so I asked Kendra and Mike to be here tonight so that we can dive into the master plan reexamination. And, I thought, so I had Susanna send out tonight Kendra's note that had been sent out back in the February meeting, which was her sort of review of the topics that that we have to go over. We had looked at these in the April meeting and decided that there were some we delegated and some that we just couldn't do without them. So I want to take some time to work on those. The first one, and we touched on this a little bit last month, was the wastewater management plan. And so I kind of wanted to, I believe we've arrived at the wastewater management plan in itself is not a part of the master plan, except it can be part of the utility part of the master plan. And so I wanted Mike and Kendra to speak to, the importance of this and why we need to update this and incorporate this. So who wants to go first here? Mike, kind of your area.
I'll be happy to lead off on this one. Okay, wastewater management plan. It's, in my opinion, and maybe I'm a little biased on this matter, but it's as important a document as there is relative to a town that's conscious of density and development activity. I'd say it's right there 1-2 with the zoning map and the zoning standards. Bottom line is, if you have sewage capacity and the rights to treat sewage, whether that be via an on-site system or in our case, more appropriately would be the Phillipsburg plant, you clearly can generate some fairly dense development. I think we've obviously seen that happen in Greenwich from the first Mount Laurel settlement, which has led to obviously all the development along Route 22. The wastewater management plan as it sits right now is fairly antiquated. When I say that in the respect of what is.
Mike, can you hold up for 1 second? I am noticing, I believe, a third township committee person who just entered this meeting, which would mean we would have a quorum of township committee people, which is a Open Public Meetings Act potential issue. So,
John, didn't we have Brad Perlone come to a meeting, and he also spoke as an audience member at a
I
meeting?
understand, but I believe we had one of the other township committee people not attend, so there
Yeah,
wouldn't be a
I
quorum.
stepped out.
So Frank or Paul, if you want the other committee person on, one of you guys, in my opinion, has to agree to leave the meeting.
I'm sure Brian will just leave.
Brian, I hope you don't kill me for this.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Brian, he left.
Okay, I'm really sorry that I had to do that, but I mean, I'm just doing my job. Sorry for the interruption.
Hey, sorry, Mike. Continue.
That's okay. It's not the first time that's happened in my career. Right, John? Okay. Back to the WMP. The current WMP that in the eyes of the DEP is pretty antiquated and old. The township has gone through updates over the past quite a few years. There's been a number of updates. When I say quite a few years, I would say 20 to update the WMP so that it is more consistent with current zoning. But those WMPs were never officially adopted by the DEP, and that's the fine line we're walking here. The part of the problem for some of you that might remember this is that at one point, this was when the Highlands Regional Master Plan came into existence and so forth, they wanted to take control of our of our wastewater management plan. The township, knowing full well the importance of the WMP, basically said, no, these terms might have actually been used. You're not getting your grubby paws on our plan, and we're gonna handle this ourselves. That caused some friction back and forth with the Highlands. And this is going back now over 10 years, well over 10 years. and it really kind of died on the vine. There was never a resolution with the Highlands Council. There was never an official approval by the DEP. Hence, the my point to start off the discussion that we have right now in, as far as Trenton is concerned and the DEP, a pretty old, antiquated, and most importantly, very inconsistent wastewater management plan as compared to our zoning and, as I know, our development goals and our master plan theme, if you will. So I think it's an important document that would need to be updated and processed through Trenton. And let's get things consistent, because they're pretty darn inconsistent at the moment. However, and to touch on, I guess, the budget issues that we've talked about tonight relative to escrows and beyond, I would suspect that there is clearly not enough money available right now to update the WMP. It's a pretty comprehensive document. There's a lot of maps. There's a lot of technical matter that goes into it, flow calculations and so forth. The township does have a separate sewer engineer, which is Dan Madden. Used to be Cupper, now it's JMT. Joe Pryor used to be the fella, if you remember, maybe if anybody remembers Joe. Joe retired, Dan Madden took over. He's got a pretty limited role typically with things, but is available. They have been involved with, in the past, what happened was we kind of did the mapping part of the equation with the WMPs, and Cupper, and then JMT would do the technical, the narrative part. There is, and what has happened in the past, and this would have to be approved by the township committee, there are monies in the township sewer budget and sewer operating budget that would not be inappropriate to be used to facilitate that exercise. Now that's a philosophical and an issue that's got to be resolved and understood and agreed upon by the township committee, as I said. So anybody have any questions on the WMP? I think I've kind of gave it a nice overview.
Mike, first of all, I guess there's a couple different aspects. From a master plan reexamination point of view, basically, if I understand it, we would say, we need to update our, wastewater management plan, and recommended that it be included in the utility element of the master plan. So that we're as a planning body saying this is something that we need to do. Okay. Now, of course, the township has to allocate funds to actually do that. And one question is, haven't you essentially already prepared that? It just hasn't been adopted by the state?
Yes, there was and I forget the year, but somewhat recently, Bruce, there was a fairly current version of the WMP that was developed. Right, so we wouldn't be reinventing the wheel. That you are correct. And that WMP did two things. It was consistent with what our current zoning is right now, with the RCD zoning and so forth. And it also showed that all of the flow that right now is owned by Greenwich Township, that was been purchased over time from Phillipsburg, which totals 388,000 gallons per day, was utilized so as not to have excess capacity. Part of that was obviously the affordable unit, especially the Dumont site. So you're right, that's fairly, it would have to be looked at and reviewed and updated, I'm sure, to a certain degree, but it's pretty much there. You're right.
Not reinventing the wheel on it. You probably, you
Nope.
don't have the Petrucci development in there, right?
Petrucci is definitely not in there.
So, so you'd have to add that, but the other sections of town and so on, which essentially consumes the issue, as I understand it, is that we have excess sewer capacity. And we need to have a plan, adopted, or whatever, that uses that capacity in order to make us less vulnerable to high density development coming in and claiming that capacity.
Yeah. And let me interject this as well. Under any circumstance that considers the Petrucci development going forward, beyond, John's points notwithstanding or from earlier, we have to update our WMP because they're inconsistent. So that's been out there as a little cloud following that project along.
Anyone else have questions for Mike on that?
Is that I did a good job explaining or I did a bad job explaining?
Very good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
So you're on mute, Kendra. But Kendra?
Yeah, I'm here. So this is just a reiteration of the same statement in the 2012 re-exam, that it's still a priority or still a goal and still recommended. One thing that we may want to consider is actually creating a priority for some of these things that some need to be done sooner than later, if that's the board's wishes.
So to the board, what are your thoughts on what we should do, recommend? Do we, technically, as I understand it, it's not part of the master plan. We could, I guess, leave it up to the township committee, but as a planning board, I think we should be pushing towards what we want to happen in the town. And this would be one of those areas that seems very important. So
I think to some degree, and John, maybe you can tell me if I'm going a little bit too far in the master plan re-exam, we can even put in several paragraphs that indicate potentially where the wastewater management plan needs to be updated to show sewer service areas for the affordable housing sites as a minimum.
Yeah, as long as it's limited to the affordable housing site, then I'm fine with it.
Okay.
did you have another concern about it, John, or?
Yeah, but I really don't want to say anything in public.
Yeah, okay. So is that where we leave it, that we,
Yeah, I think so.
okay. No other questions? Wastewater, excuse me. Kendra, do you want to talk about the Highlands planning degradation concern? We talked about that a little the other day.
Yeah, just quickly. So if you chose to go in under the Highlands planning area process, they have something called the nitrate dilution modeling, and Mike knows more about it than I do. However, part of the 2012 report talked about the fact that this analysis would have to be completed. And my question for everybody was, what was the status of the petition to the Highlands? Because then that would certainly go towards the answer to this question and how we deal with it. I think generally there's probably 3 or 4 questions that deal with the Highlands planning area and whether Greenwich would like to continue the petition or not. And that will certainly, if you don't want to continue with the petition, then this becomes a moot point. We'll just indicate that we're not dealing with what's called nitrate dilution. And these are the non-sewered areas and water quality issues from septic systems. And I won't get into it more than that because it can get complicated.
So currently, we're not in Highlands. And if I understand you, then essentially we don't have to do anything about this particular area if we're not in Highlands.
Correct.
And if the township committee decides that they want to petition and get into Highlands, then this is something we have to do.
Most likely, yes.
So, so in terms of the master plan, is that basically all we say?
It pretty much is. Again, this is a reexamination report. We're reporting on what had occurred in 2012 as your priorities or recommendations. And you know, it's been close to 10 years, so things have obviously changed. So yeah, these will be a couple of sentences that talk to the fact that the township has decided not to petition Highlands on this, you know, and this doesn't really necessarily apply any longer.
Any questions for Kendra on that? You guys are quiet.
So,
Sure.
Bruce,
Go ahead.
I'm a little puzzled. What is the petition to the Highlands? What are we specifically asking for that we're deciding not to ask for now? I'm sorry if I missed it.
That's okay. So the Highlands Council, you have the ability to opt into their overall planning process where you actually would create a master plan that's consistent with the Highlands. You would create zoning that's consistent with the Highlands overall act. And you can choose to go under their, you know, under that kind of regional planning model or not. And I think in 2012, the question, it seemed like there was some movement towards that. And I think recently, or even maybe not so recently, it's been at a standstill. So I think in your master plan reexamination report, you want to at least mention it. You know, either it's you're not, you are, or it's, you know, it's still under consideration.
Okay.
Yeah, I can help fill in on that too. And John, you could probably help fill in too. A while back, I wasn't even on the committee. They had, who was the guy's name that did the review?
Steve Balzano.
Steve Balzano. So they hired somebody to review the application and they came back with a whole bunch of things that they wanted
Frank,
the Highlands
can I do
to
this?
agree to. Go ahead, John, maybe you do it better. Go ahead.
So the township committee hired Steve Balzano, who used to work for the Highlands. And the township had petitioned the Highlands. And the township submitted its ordinance package, and it was one of the first municipalities, at least in Warren County, to do so. And the Highlands came back and said, you made too many changes in our model ordinance. And basically, it was at a standstill between Steve Balzano and the Highlands staff with a whole bunch of redlining. And the township committee at that point said it wasn't worth petitioning to have ordinance changes that they didn't want. And I don't remember how many years ago, maybe Frank will, but that's my recollection of what happened.
Right, and I think.
Frank, do you remember how long ago that was?
Oh, that had to be maybe 10 years ago or more.
I bet it's more than 10.
More than that, right? Right, Mike?
I bet it's a little more than 10 because Steve Balzano has passed away. Didn't he pass away a couple
Oh,
years
has he?
ago?
I didn't even,
Yeah, no,
I
I
didn't even know
heard
that.
that he had passed away, but I bet it goes back till the late 2000s in that era.
I'll put it this way,
Yeah.
it was sometime after 2006, and I believe it was around 2008 to 10, because it was when the third round COA rules had come out.
and I think the concern why there was all those different redlining and all that was it took a lot of decision-making.
Took some of the local control out.
Yeah,
and
it took
the
a lot of
township
local
committee,
control.
rightfully or wrongfully, but
Right.
felt that if they opted in, then they'd lose some of their ability, some of their zoning destiny, and it would be in a regional entity's hands. That's what I believe their thought was. And
Yeah,
again,
and
I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but that's my recollection.
then John, I think I had discussed this with you a while ago that I know this is still out there and we were looking just to close it and just say I don't think the town committee, even this town committee is supporting
Yeah,
opting
but that,
in.
what Kendra is suggesting is to find out if the planning board wants to put in the re-examination report. We're not interested, because as far as I know, this petition was out there. It's never been moved on, but it's never been withdrawn. So this, I believe there's a petition in.
Well,
the
that's what I was
Highlands
getting at,
file.
John. What do we need to do to withdraw it on the town committee side? We could talk about that offline if you want, but
But I believe that what Kendra is saying is that the planning board in its, in the re-examination report, if they say, forget it, make a recommendation that it not go through, or make a recommendation it does go through, but whatever. It's up to the township committee, but she said, she wants to know what, if anything, the planning board wants in the re-examination report about it. Am I reading you
Okay.
right, Kendra?
You are.
okay. I'll talk to you offline about getting that petition removed on the town committee side if you want.
So, but basically, we're not in the Highlands now. This
Yeah, right.
thing,
Bruce,
basically,
when you say you're not in,
what we're not,
you haven't opted in. You haven't opted your non-preservation areas in.
right.
Which is 80% of the township, I believe.
Correct.
Around there. Yeah.
It might even be more than 80.
Because but your preservation areas are in. Whether, you don't have to do anything. The preservation areas are in. It's what your non-preservation areas, whether you should opt in or not.
Right.
And Frank, I had spoke to John because you and I had talked, and we are on opposite ends of this. But John did suggest that we as a committee listen to them again. Things may have changed, and this committee may be more friendly or to what they have to say versus not what they have to say. But I think 12 years difference, 14, 10. I think we should be listening to them one more time. I know they made a presentation with the county recently, and the county felt very positive about opting in. So I think we have them make a presentation.
Paul, I want to clarify.
That's fine with
one
me.
thing.
I mean, yeah.
What I suggested was, if the Highlands Council wants to make a presentation, it shouldn't be to like one or two members of the governing body. It should be the whole governing body, and they will make the presentation during an open public meeting so other people can hear it also.
Yeah, it's
Paul,
fine.
Right, that's it.
specifically-
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem with that.
Do the board members have an understanding of exactly what areas in the township are in the preservation area and what are in the planning area? Because as John said, the preservation area is already designated and controlled by the Highlands Master Plan. The planning area is not unless you opt in, which we haven't. So is everybody under where those areas are? They're pretty easy to explain.
No, explain it, Mike,
Okay.
because people are not aware.
Okay, there are, it's in essence, the very north of the township and the very south of the township. So if you take Route 57 and go north up into basically Harmony, the area from Route 57 north, that area is preservation area. That area is primarily obviously mountainous and undevelopable from other fronts. The second major area, which would be at the very southern end of the town, where if you take Route 639, Warren Glen Bloomsbury Road, and use that as the divider, the area south of that to the Musconetcong. So, and that's a fairly small area-wise. So you got, as probably, I'm going to say between 80 and 85% of the township between Route 57 and 639 is planning area, which is obviously that's why it's so important, because if we would opt in, it would be, the Highlands would have a lot of impact and control over the majority of the township. So, okay, enough said.
Right, that's very accurate. What Mike said is true.
So if the land use board's going to address this, Paul, do you want to wait to hear what the land use board has to say before you set up any meeting with the Highlands and the town committee? Because I have a feeling if the land use board is against it. and I
Well,
know-
I don't know. I mean, I heard what Mike said and I heard what John's opinion said. And again, having spoken with these people, they seem to share a slightly different view of what they do and don't control. And I'm just going to quote something without getting into the whole subject. I was told by Mr. August that they have 88 communities that have opted into it, and they have never told anyone or dictated anyone how to handle their zoning.
Yeah, that ain't the issue. The issue is whether or not they can, not whether or not they have. That's the real issue.
I mean,
Right, John? I mean, just because they haven't doesn't mean they won't in the future, is what I'm saying.
Well, I hear that opinion. I'd like to hear that. Again, I think we as a committee deserve to hear it at least. And my motive is clear. My motive is very clear that if we were to listen to them and found out that it was a positive thing, all of these money issues that we're talking about right now with the master plans, the sewer plan and everything, it all gets taken care of. So I think there's a potential financial reward by at least listening.
Yeah, like I said, I'm willing to do it. I would like to hear the land use board's opinion on it. And
Honestly, from a master plan review, if I understand what Kendra is saying is that, I mean, we're not really talking about whether we should opt in or shouldn't opt in. This is simply a matter of if the township committee decides to opt in, okay, then we have to consider this nitrate situation, the degradation. And if we don't opt in, we don't have to worry about it. And that's
Yeah,
really-
right. I don't think it has anything to
Fair
do with the
enough.
master plan, right? I think we can do, this is another topic for TTC.
fair enough. Okay.
And I think the way that we would handle it, I mean, this is, maybe you make a decision before the final draft of this is completed, and we would know which direction the township is moving with regards to the Highlands. So, these are things that probably could be tabled. If it's still up in the air at the time that we publish the master plan re-exam, then we just indicate that. We indicate what the status is, that either the township is still considering, and has a petition that's active with the Highlands, and we'll just reiterate what was said in 2012. So again, this is an update. We aren't making any, we don't have to make any policy decisions. These are statements to indicate where things are and what your priorities are from a land use perspective in the next 10 years, where, what has occurred and what needs to be dealt with in the future. It's kind of your plan for your plan.
Okay, Frank?
Yep.
All right. So any other questions on on that particular aspect? If not, we'll move on to circulation plan. Susanna had sent out a few days ago the current state of the circulation plan, which was really old. And I certainly don't expect that you guys read 179 pages there, but the point of it is that it's quite old. There's a lot of roads indicated on it that were never built and never will be built because of zoning and so on. So it's really in serious need of redoing. However, that part of it again is something that takes money, and that the township would have to authorize the funds to do that. As our job is from the master plan review, as I understand it, would be basically, if we feel it's necessary, is to recommend that does the new circulation plan actually get incorporated in the review?
Not in this re-exam. If the re-exam recommended a circulation plan update or a new circulation plan, it would probably replace the old
Right, you would amend the
Circulation
I think it's 2002, you would have an amendment to that.
Any thoughts?
Well, I personally think that we would have to do some type of an amendment to it. I don't know that it's huge. I think a lot of it's going to be the same, but we certainly have a circulation plan that has to take into account a couple of different features at this point, two of which would be the affordable housing. I believe that needs to be involved into the circulation plan. So at the very least, that minimal amount of an addition.
I don't understand that. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, maybe I'm not, the circulation plan is how things flow through Greenwich Township,
We have, there's a major road
transportation, all
going
that
right
kind of
past,
stuff, right?
but there's a major road going right past the affordable housing. I don't know.
Right,
what-
but doesn't the circulation
Hold
plan
on,
also
let me just ask two questions. The two affordable housing projects, are they on township roads or county roads?
One's on a, I don't know, is Dumont, Mike, what is
They're
Dumont?
both, that's funny. There's two, they're both corner lots, so each have two different frontages. The frontage on Furman is state and municipal. The frontage on Ingerman is county and municipal.
But right, but the Dumont side is municipal, right? Greenwich is the county. Greenwich Street's the county,
Greenwich,
right?
well, Greenwich Street, but it's got frontage on both roads, so it's got two.
I'm saying it's
Double
already
jurisdiction.
got access.
Let me just ask, Paul, are you suggesting that any of those township streets that abut the affordable housing project should be widened?
No, I may be a little confused on this. I thought my interpretation of the circulation plan involved bicycle routes, transportation routes, bus
does.
routes, and things of that nature.
It
Am
does.
I a little off base on that?
No,
No, I believe it does.
And that's why I'm saying that we need to be able to make sure that these folks in these communities have the same ability to move around the business center per se, and be getting to the schools or whatever. I just think that's an addition that needs to be done to the current circulation plan because that wasn't in place at the time. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
I just don't, but just one thing to add to that is I don't think they should be treated different than any other community in the township. Like, why
No,
would they get?
I agree with you 100%. They shouldn't be treated
Yeah.
any differently, but they need to be included because they weren't in the original circulation plan.
Okay, I don't, okay,
Frank,
I
I
guess,
think what he's saying is that if the original circulation plan was done in 2002, no one in
Yeah.
their wildest dreams figured that there'd be high-density housing on the one corner and the other corner. I think he's giving that as an example of things being out of date. I don't think he's saying that that's all the thing would look at. I think he's saying at a minimum, that's an example of something that's changed that wasn't there. Paul, I don't
No,
want
that's
to
it.
put words in your mouth.
No, that's it. That's it.
And the 2002 circulation plan includes like stub roads, over in Wyndham that now you have a park where those roads would have gone through. There's, it probably had the straightening out of
yeah, well,
Dumont through Rath, I'm guessing, Mike.
yeah, so this is where it gets dangerous though. This is where it gets dangerous. So those roads were not stub roads, a lot of these roads. They were made stub roads because the township determined that we don't want traffic going through our neighborhoods. We'd rather they go around our neighborhoods. So a lot of these roads that you see not connecting to 519 or whatever, or there were roads up in Pacesetter that were going through and connecting, they were all removed because we want people going around our township and not through it.
Okay, but it's not dangerous, Frank, because what I'm saying is, yes, you didn't build the roads, but they're still in the circulation plan.
Frank, what he's saying is, the plan, I mean, look, I haven't seen the plan. I didn't look at
It
it.
doesn't have them go, it's not in. It's not
Not
in.
in?
no. No, they were removed. They were purposely removed. They were through roads.
Frank, are they I understand they're in reality, they're not through roads. In the 2002 plan, are they shown as through roads?
No, they were removed, is what I'm saying.
They were removed from the plan? Bruce,
I
did
don't
you look
think
at the
so.
plan? I haven't looked at the plan. I didn't want
Mike,
to
you
fill
know
anything
this.
on it.
Mike was involved.
Well,
Like,
no,
the
I
through roads were removed.
authored, it was our plan. I mean, we
Yeah.
developed the plan. No, I think the current plan, Frank, I think does show those extensions and now it's clearly
No way.
antiquated. But the
They gotta
biggest,
show it to me, like, there's no way, because there was a concerted effort to remove them.
the biggest
Bruce,
difference.
Bruce, can you look at the plan and take one example right now? This is, I mean, one saying white, one saying black, one saying green, one saying red. Get the facts. Everyone's going off their memory and their recollection for something done from 2002. Can you put that circulation plan element up on the screen and find the page that you're talking about?
Mike, what road are you talking
What about-
about there? You say
what about
going
Oak
through.
Street?
Well, no,
and
I'm
circulate.
talking about like the entire, there's number of roads. I don't.
An example of a road I've never heard of our township is Oak Street. That's on the circulation plan.
Oak Street?
Oak Street. Never heard of it in my life,
I don't, yeah, I never heard of it either. Oak Street.
but it's on the circulation plan. So I think that's kind of what we're talking about.
No, Mike's talking about through roads
But where's it,
showing up on the circulation plan. That's
It would
different.
be, Bruce, you got access to the, is that what you're looking at? It's like the last plan in the circulation plan.
let me, I can get it.
The other thing, while Bruce looks for that, one of the biggest changes I think would be warranted and necessary is the pedestrian circulation plan. Because we've developed a nice network of pedestrian walkways at this point in our town. So that the 2002 plan clearly didn't have a lot of these paths that we have now on the books or construct. So that would be another component I think that would, could use to be looked at again.
I've got the plan up. I'm just looking for, are there maps here that would show the stub roads? and
Yeah, yep. It would be let me
It's at
look.
the end, Bruce. It's page 169.
Yeah, it
You
should
wouldn't
be
know
a
the
color- it
name?
should be a colored map. I can probably find it as well if I can.
Well, I'll get it. I'm just trying to get to it before I do the screen share.
I think it's probably called proposed circulation plan.
Yeah.
Bruce, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, here we are. So.
I just want everyone to see what the thing shows.
We'll go down to the title block if you would, Bruce.
Now, are there the roads that are shown on what's on the screen? Are any of those roads not in today?
Or any of these roads not in today? Yeah.
Can you roll,
E,
can you
a
roll
lot
to
of
the
them
top
aren't.
of this a little more? To the middle, just a little more right there.
C is not.
C is not, D is not, H is not, J is not,
A
G
is not.
A is not. So almost
Now,
all
put
of
it
them
this
are
way.
not.
If people don't want those roads, then you should change this thing. If you do want those roads, you should leave it alone.
Yeah, and those aren't through roads, so that's not what I was talking about. You'll notice there aren't through roads connecting like 519 to 22, other than Dumont, but that was already there.
So Frank, I think the point is that the circulation plant is grossly out of date. And you basically want to update it to get it to what you want it now. So I don't see it as dangerous. I see it as an opportunity to ensure it is what you want it to be.
No, I'm fine with that. I just thought you were talking about, now we're gonna start looking at connecting roads through neighborhoods and connecting highways through, you know what I'm saying? So that was something that was addressed as an issue because the previous plan had roads going through neighborhoods and connecting major roads and
Yeah.
making, they would become
I think
high traffic roads through neighborhoods. So
This-
this doesn't show that, because that's what I was saying, that was taken out.
Yeah, this area over here is the extension that would have gone through by rafts, which everybody objected to because it would have made it more of a
What
thorough,
road is that?
huh? Right over here.
That's Dumont Road Extension.
Yeah. So
But
rafts, rafts,
yeah, but that road already exists. You just have to make a left and a right. That's a straightening. That doesn't change anything.
Wait a minute, that blue, is the road shown in blue in existence now or not?
No.
Not in existence, but it doesn't change the fact that Dumont's a through road. It's already connected to 519.
Frank,
That
let me ask
wouldn't
you
change.
something. Frank, if you
Well-
had your druthers, would you want to see that blue road constructed or not?
That doesn't look to be connected to Dumont because
yeah, this is.
oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
the way it-
So that's a straightening of Dumont, right? Is that what you're talking about, Bruce?
No, it looks like doesn't it look like
Yeah,
a
it is.
bypass?
It's a straightening. It's
No,
a
it-
straightening.
It's a realignment of Dumont.
It's a realignment of Dumont. So here's
Well,
what
that's a
happens.
strikers. No, excuse me.
Strikers, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
where it becomes
strikers
strike.
aligns,
Right.
so strikers aligns with Dumont. So that was discussed many times. You could decide to do it if you want, but it's gonna do is it's gonna make it easier for people from other towns.
Frank, you're not answering the question. The question is, if you had your druthers, would
Can
you
I- Mike,
want?
John, just let me finish my thought, please, and I'll answer that if I can. And it's not me, this is the question to the whole land use board. If you do that, if you align it, it's good, just make it easier for people coming through from other towns to go through our town. I was opposed to realigning it, but that's just me. If people want to realign it, and that's fine, we could do that, but I just think it's gonna make it easier for people to access Dumont Road and go through our town.
So
by
Frank,
aligning it.
you're now arguing that this should be revised to eliminate that.
That, yeah, yes.
Okay. Because before you were arguing that it shouldn't be touched. That Bruce's
No.
point,
No, I was addressing a comment about through roads, so
Okay.
that's all I was
must have
doing.
misunderstood.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that if we looked at, and like I said, I'm just one person's opinion. I was just saying, if we looked at it, I just want to make sure that we don't start saying, this is just my personal opinion. I'd rather our township, the traffic go around than through it. So I just want to make sure that we don't start, hey, this is a really good way to get people through our town. I mean, if that's people's opinion, that's fine, but there was an effort to remove that. So I was just addressing that.
I'll comment on that A road as well. I don't think that would be possible to begin with, because you would have to tear down Rath's building and everything else to make that the
Yeah.
way that is right now. That's
You have
never
to
gonna
move-
happen.
Yeah, you're right. Gary.
What is more logical to me is the B road, because then that would eliminate all that Home Depot traffic from going past those houses of Revere Road and Patricia, for them to be able to access Dumont Road without actually going through the development. That would be a more logical roadway.
Yeah, that's fine. I agree with you on that. Yep.
Okay, so I think we at least have agreement that I believe that what is here is out of date. There are things that, and out of date also in the sense that there are things here that we no longer want to have. And maybe there's some additional things that we'd want to have. We haven't looked at it. So, but basically I think the circulation plan has to be updated. And as Paul said, and there are other elements. It's not just the roads. We've added a lot in terms of pathways. I'm not sure. I don't know if the red is probably a pathway.
Bruce, if you could pan down, it probably shows in the legend down at the bottom of the plan. I'm gonna guess.
Proposed bikeway pedestrian path. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Oh, proposed. Okay, now it's actually built. How about that?
Yeah.
You
So
followed the plan.
Yeah, there you go. The plan went to fruition. Very good.
That's the thing. If something's shown on this plan and you don't want it built, if a developer, I know that in the climate that we're in right now, it might not happen, but residential's coming back in some of the other counties. People are moving out of New York City. If there's something shown on this plan and the developer came in with a lot adjacent to it, this supports putting in something that you might not want in. This is an element that you might want to say in your reexamination report that you recommend that it be updated. Up to you, without drawing any conclusion of which way you're gonna go. But if you see something in there that you wouldn't want built, that's a reason to have this thing looked at.
Mike, is that road B connecting straight into Strikers? Or
No.
is that just gonna go on?
No,
the
no,
private
no.
road?
Road B was just basically a Dumont Road alternative, if you will, because it set up a new intersection with Dumont and 519.
That's what I thought, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
This is Dumont and this is 519 here.
correct. Yep.
which one's Dumont, Bruce? Show me that again.
Well, Dumont is going along here, okay, and comes down here, but this shoots off of Dumont straight over to 519, rather than making you go through Greenwich Chase.
Right. Okay,
Okay, so the circulation plan needs to be looked at in some capacity, or certainly at least referenced in the master plan.
Kendra, you got that?
Got it.
Kendra got it before,
Oh,
I'm
she
sure.
got it all right.
Yeah.
Can I take this down?
Yeah, please.
And I really don't see anything on there that would be absolutely horrible, to say, no, we definitely would not want that road. I mean, some of the ones that are on there are, logical in the future, potentially, like keeping people, out of the center of town by making a cut through from Greenwich Street to South Main. That would be letter G, and a different access road to the school, either D or J.
Well, J couldn't happen anymore, Gary, because that goes right through the park.
Bruce, you better put the thing back up.
yeah,
that's
put
right.
it back up, Bruce.
Yeah.
Good job, Bruce.
You don't want C and D happening because they're driving cul-de-sacs right into the middle of farm fields.
Listen, we're doing the alphabet and we don't see the letters. We gotta have Bruce put this thing back up there.
It's up.
We're not seeing it.
No.
Oh,
You gotta stop your share and start it again, Bruce. I think sometimes you gotta do that.
share screen. You know what? I just put it up. I didn't, on my screen, I didn't share it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so there's.
I
D.
was only saying D as a result of it being another access to the school.
I'm trying to position myself.
D is going off of Beatty's Road and South Main Street intersection.
Right in the middle, Bruce, dead center.
No, I'm just trying to see what's around that. So the school is.
School is further to the left, closer to Dory.
School is where that red arrow up is, a little bit
Yeah.
to the right of that.
That's a schoolhouse. It's not actually.
Well, that's it then, right?
Yeah. And the green arrow is a green schoolhouse.
So can I ask you something? So where does that road D lead to? There's a cul-de-sac at the end of it. Where does it lead to?
Road D, if my memory serves me correctly, was shown as part of an intersection improvement between South Main Street and Beatty's Road, which would allow for a new access drive for the potential development of those two parcels. You see,
Okay.
one is the Hoser piece and
Right,
the other
so
one is the,
Do you really want that?
no,
No.
right, I'm just saying, this was 20 years ago.
Okay, so to me, road D is D for danger. Where does road
It's fine.
C? Where does road C go to? What's at the end of the cul-de-sac at
No,
road C?
that's
Why
it-
was road
that's
C?
in
Road
preserve-
C,
It's preserved farmland now, so
road
C
C
is
is C for
absolutely out.
caution.
It's worse than caution.
Okay,
It's,
so
it's preserved farmland there.
It
That's
sounds
15, so
it
it's,
sounds like C is a waste of money if you wanted to put that road in, and D is dangerous to show on the plan. We're finding, what I'm hearing is there a bunch of things shown in this plan that you guys don't want constructed.
E is the Dow
What is
piece.
E? Now,
So
So what is E coming off of? What is that?
what is E, you said, Frank?
Oh, that's Beatty's
That's
Road?
the Dow piece. That's through Dow.
So this would be,
Rudell. Oh, okay, so you don't gotta go through Church Street and that, yeah.
Yeah. And it came up with a new intersection on
That one
173.
you probably would want, I would think, right? Get that away from the residents.
Listen, you know what? Can I make a
I thought
suggestion?
it anyway.
I think enough things have been said to show that this is probably something that you want to put in the re-examination report of being looked at, but now's not the time to look at it.
Right.
I think we're getting people on board here. Can I take this down now?
Yep.
I hope
Keep
so.
keep it close by though, Bruce.
And of course, I think in the last meeting, Frank, you brought up, the possibility is there anything we can do about circulation in terms of the trucks coming through town? And I don't know if that's anything. we
Yeah,
can-
there was an interesting article. I don't know if John saw this. Hamilton Township, I might have been, where they, the state granted them the ability to restrict truck traffic through. Did you see that article, John?
I
I'll
did
have to
not
forward
see
it to you.
that, but I can tell you, up in Bergen County, when one of the municipalities tried to restrict traffic passing through so they get off Route 80, that was struck down in court.
Well, apparently, I'll send you the article. Apparently, the state approved something where a
Put
town
it this
can
way,
restrict.
send the article to all the board professionals, and you might even want to send, and then ask Susanna to send it out to the board members. But again, that's maybe another reason that you want to look at this out-of-date circulation element.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce, fine with whatever we can do to restrict truck traffic. I'm all for it. So if that's,
Well, right now, the circulation plan element doesn't say anything about restricting truck traffic. So if you wanted it to say something, you'd have to, in the master plan re-exam, you should put it in there to look at it and potentially revise it and update it.
So are we in agreement that the master plan reexamination report should recommend that we redo the circulation plan?
yeah, with just one caveat on that, Bruce. Remember, the original budget for the master plan was approved at 5,000.
You guys are ultimately going to have to budget for doing it. All we're doing is recommending that it be done.
Yeah, so the budget was at 5,000 because, see what it's turning into, and not that it's a bad thing, but it's turning into a major master plan review where the budget was asking for the budget was put for a $5,000 master plan review. So I don't know where it's going. If we want this, it's gonna have to go back to the town committee, right? Like you just said, for budget approval, but.
So again, this is a reexamination report. The only thing that's going to happen in this reexamination report is a few sentences and statements as it relates to each of these issues. It will indicate that there will be a recommendation from this board that the circulation plan be amended. That would be then what you would put onto your budget agenda for next year or for whenever to say, and Mike Finelli will give you a cost to say that it's going to cost you X amount to amend
Oh,
it.
okay, so you want to look to do it this year? Okay,
Well, it's the budgeting thing, but
That's the township committee. That's the part that's up to you. The master plan.
all right, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I misunderstood. I thought, because John was asking us to look at the circulation plan, I thought we were gonna start revising it now, but what I'm hearing is you're just recommending that we take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm saying that there are a whole bunch of things that people said that, in my opinion, cry out to include this in the re-exam as something that should be reviewed. In fact, I said, now's not the time to review it, and now's not the
Yeah.
time to amend it. But the
Okay.
re-examination report is supposed to recommend what should be reviewed and
Got it.
revised.
Okay,
All right, guys, I think we've accomplished a fair amount tonight, and I don't want to be too late getting to Applebee's.
Hey,
So unless you've got any other questions, I think I'd ask for that all important motion.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
okay.
Aye.
I
Can the
just,
professionals
hey,
vote?
Hey, Bruce, I don't think I'm gonna make it, so tell Ray, good luck, congratulations.
Sure will.
And Susanna, I just emailed you that article that Frank was referencing before, so if you want to send it, I sent a copy, John and Kendra, so you want to send it out to everybody, it's there, you
Yeah.
got it.
Bruce, send Ray my regards.
All right, sure will.
All right,
Okay,
bye-bye.
good night, guys.
Bye.
Bruce,
Night.
good job with your first meeting. Well done.